Hi, welcome to this mini lecture on repositioning humans' relation to the environment informed by non-Western perspectives. My name is Lisha. I am a second-year master's student just finishing up my thesis, my 30-credit thesis. But on top of it, this semester I had an environmental ethics course, and I found it such a fascinating topic, and I wanted to just provide you with some of the research I did for my own assignment on non-Western perspectives, East Asian philosophies, and their contribution to the dialogue around the environmental crisis. I hope you enjoy. Today's itinerary is relatively simple. We're going to be looking at pragmatism, paradigms, practicalities, perspectives, and reflections. Before we go any further, I want to recap that sustainability means meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. The goal of today's lecture is really about providing you with some points of reflection by offering some new information on non-Western perspectives that may challenge your norms, beliefs, attitudes, and values that you may not even know that you hold, because everyone around you in the paradigm is also thinking or acting the same. And because of that, I want to introduce you to environmental pragmatism. Environmental pragmatism emphasizes the importance of collaborative and inclusive dialogues when evaluating environmental practices, really encouraging a pluralistic and practical approach. And in this case, ethics is kind of acting as a tool because pragmatism helps to combine different theories and ground them into day-to-day impacts of individual and collective effects on the environment. Keeping environmental pragmatism in mind, I'm going to introduce you to different theories that can be applied to sustainability. First one is Thomas Kuhn and the theory of scientific revolutions. According to Thomas Kuhn, a paradigm is a conceptual framework that shapes ways of thinking, thus underpins scientific knowledge in a particular field in a particular time period. A paradigm shift occurs when researchers come across data that cannot be explained by the dominant paradigm. Because today's lecture is really about providing you with some tools for reflection, points of reflection, I want to bring Thomas Kuhn's theory outside of a scientific context. If you think about it, we believe certain things, we exist in a paradigm, and thus it impacts the way that we view the world and how we produce knowledge and reproduce knowledge, also as researchers and academics. The theory of scientific revolutions can then be used as a tool for personal reflection, because currently nature is viewed as a commodity which services humanity and the economy, a view which has led to the climate crisis, according to Adrian Buller. Current ways of thinking revolve around anthropocentrism, individualism, consumerism, which are key tenets of the capitalist paradigm. So now I want to provide you with a little bit of food for thought. Copernicus discovered that the Earth revolves around the sun, but before that, it was believed that the Earth was at the center of the universe and that everything revolved around the Earth. And he had to challenge the existing paradigm, and over time, people shifted their belief that everything revolves around the Earth to now believing that the Earth revolves around the sun. And I think that we can apply this to challenge also capitalist norms that shape our lives, such as going to work 8 hours a day, making money, and then spending that money on consumerist products. So now you might be thinking, why should I care? Why should I take the time to reflect on my impact on the environment? Why does it matter? I don't have a moral obligation to nature. I'm going to introduce you to deep ecology in response. It's an ecological activist movement that asserts that humans have a moral obligation to the natural environment because they are part of it. Thus, humanity must respect and protect nature for its intrinsic value rather than for its instrumental value. All parts of nature are equal and should be treated as such. So it's a rather ecocentric view. In relation to capitalism, it really opposes the idea that nature is a subservient commodity to be exploited for human benefit. So now let's explore the possible paradigm shift that would entail reconceptualizing humankind's relation to nature. Now I want to introduce you to two East Asian philosophies, Buddhism and Taoism, that have quite a bit in common. They both advocate for harmony and balance with the environment, the importance of interdependency of all biotic and abiotic entities, and the inherent interconnectedness of nature, which includes human beings. They both emphasize that there is a huge possibility for the mutual enhancement of the quality of life for human beings and for the natural environment, that it does not mean that we have to choose one or the other. So looking specifically at Taoism, Tao translates as ways of nature in English, and two Taoist principles are very related to nature and the environment, which are respect for nature and non-harm. Taoism advocates for lifestyles that minimize harm to the nature of which human communities are an interconnected part of, and Taoism really emphasizes the importance of being conscious of the ever-changing balance between human activities and the environment to create a sense of harmony. An important Taoist thinker, Zhuangzhou, in fact, asserted that the environment should be the focal point of all education. According to Taoism, in order to be one with nature, an individual needs a heightened level of awareness and instinctual sensitivity to the environment and everything within it. So, really coming back to this idea again of harmony with the environment. And this relates to the Taoist understanding of sustainability, which is really emphasizing interconnectedness and this opportunity for a better quality of life for both humans and nature, of which humans are an inextricable part of. So, this real opportunity to live in symbiosis. Now we're going to zoom over to Buddhism. And according to Buddhism, nothing exists independently. Everything is interconnected and interdependent. And a specific type of Buddhism, which is eco-Buddhism, asserts that the moral status and intrinsic value of any being is derived from sentience, the ability to feel, particularly the ability to experience pain and suffering. They assert that human flourishing in society is a state of mind which encompasses non-acquisitiveness, simplicity, generosity, frugality, restraint, mindfulness, and non-harm. It really encourages a more simple way of life than the one that we are living right now. And in the midst of globalization and the ecological crisis, Buddhism offers an alternative perspective and value system with positive environmental impacts when followed by individuals. Okay, so now we have a bit of a different perspective on the environment, and you might be thinking, what now? So what? I think what I would love you to take away from these is that they both share a different way of understanding and interacting with nature based on intrinsic value rather than instrumental value that we really see in the economic system today. Really, they advocate for minimalist ways of life, which are naturally much more sustainable, much lower negative impacts on the environment around them and the people around them as well. And it's really about sufficiency, getting what we need, rather than these high levels of consumption. And it's really in line with this more deep ecology school of thought, which really asserts that we ourselves have a moral obligation to the environment because we are part of it. So maybe what specifically can we learn? What lessons can we draw for ourselves? So these East Asian philosophies really give us this opportunity to adopt new beliefs, to adopt new values, priorities, and attitudes towards the environment, and to really question our own that we take for granted. Because these beliefs and priorities and values and attitudes, they shape behavior. And this is an opportunity then to move away from this like instrumental valuation of nature to a more intrinsic value that's really like informed by this interconnectedness that we all have together within this planet. And really, I think that there's a huge opportunity to have a paradigm shift to go from the emphasis on economic growth and to meeting the basic needs of society within planetary boundaries with less consumption, with less harm to the environment. So before we finish, I would invite you to join me in the chamber of reflection and revisit Davis's statement that in order to be one with nature, an individual needs a heightened level of awareness and instinctual sensitivity to the environment and everything around it. So I ask you, how can you develop an inherent sensitivity towards nature? For me, I believe that this has been fostered through hiking and like just living and growing up in nature and understanding the local biodiversity around me. And I would invite you to maybe think of ways that you can feel like you can be more in touch with the nature that is around you. So now we're going to circle right back to an environmental pragmatist approach. And I'm going to ask for you to take these questions home and to just think about them. There's no right answer, but I think it's very important that at a time like this, with the environmental crisis, with also human rights implications of it, and also just the harm done to nature, that these are really important reflection points that each of us should think about according to deep ecology's moral obligation to the environment. So what does ethically living mean for you? Are any of your values aligned with non-Western perspectives? What can you do today to come closer to sustainable ways of living? And how can changing your relationship to the environment shift your paradigm? Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful summer holidays. Take care.